You guys saw a typing test of this board with different keycaps a few months ago, and I'll link that up right here, but now it's new and improved, and this is my favorite keyboard right now, the Tofu 65 with drop holy pandas and these new Skyline PBT keycaps. Let's jump into the review. Also, we're doing something a little bit new this time, so sound test is going first. Put your headphones on, be prepared. This sounds pretty dang good. Go. Hey guys, this is Betty from Switch and Click, and this video is sponsored by the Coldest Water, sponsored product placement right here, and then roll the B-roll that I made of it right now. Alright, cool. Now that that's over with, this is a great water bottle. I use it a lot. Actually on the reg nowadays. It fits into cup holders, beautiful color, affordable pricing, all that stuff. Great bottle. If you're interested in checking it out, links are down below. But anyways, let's jump into the keyboard itself. My Tofu 65 in gray with an aluminum plate with drop holy pandas and Skyline PBT keycaps. Links are all down below if you're interested in checking any of this stuff out at all. This is my third custom build since I started getting into the mechanical keyboard hobby. I built this, I believe, last September of 2020, and it's been on and off in my desk for ever since then. Actually, at some point it was too loud, so I ditched it for something else, but now it's back in the rotation of keyboards, and I gotta say it's been a good time using it. Anyways, we've got to review this bad boy. I've had it for several months now. Clearly build quality is no problem, but as always, we've got to get started with what's in the box. So what is in the box? Obviously, it's been a while now, so I don't clearly remember everything, but this does have the KBD 67 Rev 2 PCB in it. It does have a little bit of underglow, but because this case is CNC aluminum and the keycaps aren't exactly shine through or anything, you don't really get to see any of that underglow unless you're looking underneath the switches to see any kind of color come out of there. Right now, I believe it's like a light blue. If you get the acrylic case though, you get some nice RGB on that underside. So this is the soldered version, and I personally enjoy soldering custom builds because it has a longer lasting permanence and it makes me not want to swap it out as often. So this kit was $175. It came with the case, it came with the plate, the PCB. It also even came with a USB-C cable, although it wasn't anything impressive and I clearly didn't use it at all. Also came with stabilizers, but again, not the most impressive. A lot of people recommend just changing them to stabilizers that are higher quality and something that you would like a little more. In my case, I picked the Durock B1 stabilizers for this build, the screw-in ones, and I believe they are purple in here. All you need to buy are the keycaps and the switches, and of course accompanying accessories if you want to up your game, such as lube station, better stabilizers, better coiled USB-C cable, wrist rest, anything like that. But if not, then it's $175 plus keycaps plus switches. It could get really pricey. In terms of build quality, This thing is a chunky boy, super impressive, and it is a little bit of a pain sometimes having to lift it up from the desk since it doesn't have anywhere that's super easy to get a hold of it. You sort of have to like scoot it off and then lift it, or grab it by the top and bottom and then lift it up like that. No great places to put your fingers underneath and really lift it up, unlike the KBD 75 that had little angles that you can just lift up easily like that. In terms of weight, this thing was 1,455 grams or 3 pounds 3 ounces on the scale. Really impressive. On the back here, you'll see that there's a brass plate that you could take off and unscrew via these 4 screws here, and that will subtract some of its weight. Alongside this, you have 4 rubber bump-ons. I originally lost my 2 on the back because, you know, storage of these things is a little difficult, so I did lose those, but thankfully we had some replacements, so I put them back in. Without the bump-ons, there's some terrible rattling sounds that happens, especially when you press the top row. So bump-ons are an absolute must-have when it comes to this board. My new ones don't fit quite as well or look quite as uniform as the other ones, but you know, it gets the job done. So if you are moving your keyboard around a whole lot, I would definitely take a look at those and maybe super glue them on. On the side here, you can see that the typing angle is about 6 degrees. At least that's what I remember seeing on the sales page. And like other custom mechanical keyboards that have a CNC aluminum case, they tend to get a little bit high. So that's why I do actually use a wrist rest when it comes to this board. Now that's not something that I regularly use, but ever since I got this sent to me by Keycaps, I've been using it pretty regularly, and it's been great just resting my hand on it while gaming or while typing really slowly. As you know, when I do type a little bit faster, I tend to hover a lot more because there's a lot more movement going on, but casually, a wrist rest is really helpful. There's no great aesthetic design or anything. This board is very brick-like and is probably the epitome of brick-looking mechanical keyboards. It's very angular, very straightforward, very flat sides, nothing too out of the ordinary. On the top left here, you do see the cutout for the USB-C cable, and there's plenty of room there to pretty much fit the majority of custom cables. I've been using the TES Cables E-Series in black to pair with this board. I've also occasionally swapped it out with the white Thought cable that you saw in the intro earlier, and that's been something that I really like using too, because the cable, the coil itself, takes up approximately 75% of the width of the keyboard, and I like that look on my desk. The kit is a tray mounted kit. Nothing too crazy here. No gaskets, no top mount, it's tray mounted, so everything just screws right into the case. Nothing needs to be taken off, and the case is just one big piece as a whole. But it is simple, and in some cases, simple is better, especially considering this was only my 3rd build. I didn't have a ton of experience with building boards, and when it came to my first top mounted board, I did have a little bit of trouble trying to get my head around exactly what needed to be screwed in where. With a board like this that's tray mounted, it's really easy to just know that everything screws into the case, and that's it. As for the keycaps, you do get the choice to pick whatever keycaps you want. I was using ePBT ABS white on black double shot keycaps to go with this board, but the pitch that it created with these switches were a bit high, so I tended to avoid using the board very often because Jake and I do work in the same space, and when I use a very loud keyboard, obviously it gets a little annoying. And I would say the same if he were using a loud keyboard. These are 1.5mm PBT keycaps with die sub legends, very thick, and good thing this plate and PCB work together as having south-facing switches. There is no interference at all with cherry profile keycaps such as these. So this is called the Skyline keycap set from West M. I'll have it linked down below. They're a Canadian company, and this keycap set reminds me a lot of the Pacific Northwest when we were living in Washington, in Seattle. The keycap set does have 129 keys. It's ANSI and ISO compatible, and also compatible with alternative layouts such as 65%, 75%, and 96%. I love the details in some of these special keycaps that they have, such as the skyline, buildings, and things like that. These keycaps do change the noise profile combined with this build and these switches amazingly. So with the PBT keycaps, it sounds a lot more lower, more clackier, and definitely deeper in sound. With the ABS keycaps, it was higher pitched, and it also had this like echoey reverb feeling, and it wasn't as stocky or clacky. And if you skip the sound test in the beginning, we'll do one right now so you can really appreciate how good this board sounds. All right, there you heard it. It is a little bit deeper. Love using it. It's not too loud. Of course, the way I lube these switches really affects how they sound as well. And we'll talk about that pretty soon. But of course, if you look at the close-ups of these keycaps, my soldering job was not exactly the best. And I didn't exactly align all of the keycaps like I should have. You can see that my backslash and my enter key is a little bit tilted and misaligned, but you know what? I'm okay with that. I made it. It's my board. As for the switches, we've got lube drop holy pandas with Tribosys 3203, and I do lube the legs because personally I like a more rounded bump and not like a super sharp bump when it comes to tactile switches. I know it's like losing a little bit of tactility, but in the end I enjoy the feeling a lot more. But the spring force and the way that it feels and sounds is just great for typing. I don't type as fast on this board, and I'm okay with that because usually when I type, I don't really go over 100 words per second, especially since my brain is formulating thoughts and what I should type out. But if I'm just typing something, just copying something like on a typing test, this board does more good than bad. As for stabilizers, I believe these are the purple Durock V1 PCB screw-in stabilizers. Purple and gold looks great together, but I would prefer a different color sometimes, you know. I've had a lot of purple stabilizers. Really like some really neutral colored ones, so maybe next build we'll have a neutral color stabilizer build instead. They are lubed with 205G0 on the stems, and then they have dielectric grease on the wires. And the best thing about Durock stabilizers is you don't need to clip the legs. There are no legs here that need to be clipped, and as a result it requires less work to get your build going. So it sounds pretty amazing on all the stabilizers except the spacebar, but I think that's my fault. Pretty much everything wrong that happens with keyboard builds is probably my fault. What I believe is happening is I think the wire needs to be rebalanced, but to do that I would need to desolder everything, and I don't exactly have all the tools to do that, so I'm gonna leave it. Alright, some additional features. It is QMK and VIA compatible. I absolutely love VIA. It's amazing. It updates in like real time. As soon as you change it on the computer, it is already there on your board, and it's super easy to use. I love switch testing with it. I love PCB testing with it. I just love it so much. It's super easy to use, and it's compatible with the majority of custom kits nowadays, which is really good. VIA is awesome. It's just awesome. All keyboard companies should just use VIA. It's amazing. So there is some PCB underglow, and you can change the way that the board changes through those things using the VIA software. Mine's set to like a teal blue or something, but it's not really visible at all with this case, so it doesn't really matter. All right, what's the verdict? So it is an expensive build, absolutely expensive. $175 for the kit PCB and like accompanying accessories. You got about $20 for the stabilizers. There was $20 of shipping for the board itself. $80-ish for the switches. I'm not sure about the price of these keycaps, but I'm assuming somewhere around $80 as well. So for this build, it's about $400. And I'm sure that's not even considering taxes and additional shipping supplies. And of course, lube and accessories too. So it's a little crazy. It's a little expensive, especially for what people consider to be entry-level custom keyboard builds. There's this entire subreddit that frowns upon KBD fans' mechanical keyboards, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous. This board feels high quality. Sure, it doesn't look amazing or exclusive or one of a kind, but it sounds great, it looks great, it gets the job done. And if I want to give it a makeover, I just change up the cable, change up the keycaps, and we're good to go. Of course, if I had a desoldering gun, that would be amazing, but I don't, so we're not doing that. Someday we will. Someday I will get a desoldering gun and I'll desolder some of these boards and make sure they're aligned, stabilizers are good. Not sure when that day will come, but we'll see. Alright, so if I were to go for an entry-level custom keyboard build, as of this point, I would recommend the NK65 Entry Edition, the Key.Company Portico keyboard, lots of different colors there, or the KBD 67 Lite. All of these are 65%. They all look amazing. They're not chunky and aluminum like this, but they'll definitely get the job done, and I believe they're all hot swappable as well. So a lot of choices that you get to do with things there. But if you are looking for a custom build that is soldered, aluminum, probably gonna last you years and years, I really recommend KBD fans. I have nothing against them. I have many of their boards. This one, the Tofu 65, I have the KBD 75, and I even entered the group buy into the Maha or Maja build for a 65% Alice layout looking kind of build. Love them all, high quality, nothing to complain about. And for switches, instead of going for drop holy pandas, I would opt in for the glorious pandas that cost a lot less, definitely more affordable. They sound and feel tiny little bit different, but the price of those definitely better, way more budget friendly. Anyways, links to all the things that I talked about, including everything I use for this board, as well as what I recommend you check out and see if that's worth it for you, will all be down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.